Hi guys, it's now the next day. This is now the second can of RP90. Just giving it another little blast there, and I have to say that everything is loosening up absolutely beautifully. So it should be possible to take this thing apart now, prepare some bits for repainting, and basically strip other parts to pieces to figure out what we're actually dealing with in terms of any parts that need replacing, or any parts that need to be, I guess, refabricated, because it's going to be pretty difficult getting hold of these bits. It's 1946, this one, so just post-war, British built. Not entirely sure where. I'll do a bit of homework for a subsequent episode. But yeah, little precision metalworking lathe. Now, the RP90 has done a wonderful job of loosening up the spindle. That was kind of turning, but wasn't turning very cleanly. Let me just see here. I might be able to press this off. Yeah, that's coming. Excellent. Okay, so I have no clue what this thread is. These threads I've identified, I think, waiting on some parts to arrive to prove it, but I believe they are 7/16 UNC, so coarse threaded imperial 7/16 inch thread nuts. For that I only need one, as it turns out. Here we go. So the chuck has come off. Now let's have a look here. So this has two square adjusters. Let's just give this another blast inside. I'll come around to that in a moment. Don't want to get too much on my mug, or in my mug more importantly. Okay, so this is a very simple mechanism, really. I'm not wanting to open it up too much if I can help it, so let's see what we can do with squirting some oil, or we can get at it into the back of that mechanism. That's going nicely. And right down into the guts of it as well. Now if this is going to free up, I shan't worry about stripping this, just clean up the outside. Oh my goodness. Yeah, still a bit loose, a bit stiff, and a few spots, but that, yeah, that's a spot it's sticking there, and that's it freed up. Yeah, I'm going to call that a win. So that, I'll definitely take the jaws out. You just wind it all the way back and then they pop out. Like so. And there's, if you look in there, there's a big spiral. So these will pop out one by one. The chuck key. Okay, so there's number one. Hardly needs any cleaning at all. I shall go over this with Brasso as usual. It's great for steel. but for now I think we are spot on. Lovely job. Right, so the chuck can go in the collection box and is borderline serviced. What else have we got? So there's really this piece will never come off. I do have an option to fabricate some holders for the end there. There's two C-shaped holders that twist in opposite directions to undo pinch nuts there. Might not bother. That is spinning really nicely now. This has been the problem, so let's focus next on this, which is completely seized onto the base, and this bottom piece absolutely solid as well. I'll just move the camera around. Right, so that's you with the best seats in the house there. This one is starting to move. Not really a massive surprise, because on the top here there's an exposed thread. I was able to get gallons of the penetrating oil into that, and that really has done a lovely job. So this is now pretty much free. Now I did use the plastic bristle brush just to get this thread as clean as I could on both sides, make sure we're not grinding any cack into it, but that, just work it along here. There you go. As you can see there, the spindle is slightly bent, the threaded spindle. I am going to let that go, because that, with all of the oil that's been put onto the flat surfaces, that is running really super nicely. And in fact, after that pass was freed up. Wow. Okay, other than cosmetic stuff, nothing to do there. Let's just run that back. Yeah. For a precision lathe, that is plenty. And I'm sure it will free up as I go. Right, so cosmetically, that needs, if I'm honest, probably a new block on top, but I am going to try and restore this one, which is also freed up nicely now. Okay, so let's take that off. These blocks are easy to obtain. Just put the camera down again. Because this is definitely a job that's easier with two hands. Don't want to lose any of these bits. That is one of the mystery bolts that I need to identify. Now that's really helpful, because that means that I can now turn that spindle. So this one here, I'm going to say that's borderline perfect for something that's 80 plus years old. You'll take that. Lovely. A little bit oily, but I've drowned it in oil. So I'm going to just take these pieces off. A little collet there. This all needs cleaning up. I'm going to use possibly Hammerite, more likely Harpic 10X on this. As I say, this piece here that holds the bits, these are freely available. Now I might keep this one just for originality, clean it up and so on, but because these threaded pieces here are going to be very difficult to get a hold of, I shall probably replace this with a metric equivalent, just for convenience, because you can certainly still get them for about £15 that are compatible with the original. The important thing is that this piece here is pretty unrusty. Let me just put that somewhere safe, grab a rag. This is apparently the very definition of an oily rag restoration. Oh, beautiful. Right. So there are 4 flat-headed screws that hold that onto the carrier. All 4 are still present. I have the original, what should we call that? It's not a collet, it's just a big thick washer really, just to hold the top of the thing down and hold it in position. If I can figure out what this thread is, I shall probably end up fabricating a large butterfly nut for that, or finding another one of these and fitting a handle onto it to make it easier to lock and unlock. In the meantime, that is perfect, and the bottom one is a mystery. Now these, I've checked out the original website for these. Let me just move you down for this next bit. Checked out that there's various lathe websites online that list this particular model, and what I've seen more often than not is that the pinch nut actually goes on behind the handle and is pinched up against the handle. The reason for that being that it keeps the nut and the handle off the gauged bevel. Now this gauge is attached onto the spindle, of course, but with the handle against it and friction on the back plate there can actually give duff readings. So you want to keep the handle piece separate from the bezel rather. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this on the other way round from this one. I'm going to pinch that in from behind, not with a big fat spanner like that. What have we got? It looks like about 12 now. Ah, 12 now. Okay, so I've got about a 2mm gap, maybe one, behind that bolt that I'm holding with the spanner. I'm just going to very carefully nip that up. This doesn't need a lot of force, or at least it shouldn't need a lot of force. I'm going to loosen the thing off at the back as well. There's a little lever here to allow you to slide it and then lock it in place. It was locked, so now it should be loose. Let's give it a bit of a bonk with the rubber or plastic dead blow. There we go. Broken the skin on the oil anyway. I'm just going to try wiggling this and try and get it moving. It's in its fully wound in position, so I'm just going anti-clockwise here. And if I can get this open, this top piece is kind of coming open like that. So what I'm going to do is squirt a bit of penetrating oil in under, so if I can get it out about ½ an inch, I shall use the straw to get in and under, just to get some more oil in, and then leave it for a little bit. There we go. That's about ½ an inch. Let's do this. a gap at the other end I can do now as well. That's good, I can see that dropping out the front. Okay, I'm going to leave that for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back to it. So, see you in a sec. Okay, we're now about 10 minutes later, and this is freeing up really nicely. So it's not even trying to unthread itself from the spindle, and much like the top piece, this is turning really well. Now at the moment it's not locked down and it's sliding beautifully. So what I can do with that, you'll see this bit here where it's still wet, I'm going to need to effectively polish this prism on the top, polish that up without reducing the size any, but basically get rid of the surface rust, and that will allow me then to basically just grease it, and this block rides on that front rail and the back flat. So super easy to fix that, just needs a lot more oil. Right, now the other thing that's happened here is that this top piece has freed up as well, which is excellent. And one thing that's really nice is that the penetrating oil has cleaned the scale. I'm just going to lean you over here so you can see a little bit better. Down here is a scale showing, I think, degrees, but that's coming clean just as part of the process. So I'm going to strip this whole block to bits and clean that up separate. By the way, the reason it's so much lighter, I've opened the garage door because the smell of the penetrating oil, whilst I love it, is a little overpowering. Anyway, let me just lock this on the back here for a sec. Oh, look at that. It's a bit stiffer than the top, pull short, but my guess is that this probably had a lot more rust on it, or drips, or was already full of gunk and dried out grease and so on before it sat for however many years in the shed. Anyway, this is perfectly functional for a manual. I mean, really the only difference with the modern ones is motors on them. That should slide forwards. I've just unwound it all the way. Little Woodruff pin drops out the side. What have we got? Nice. This is the receiver that the thread slots into, and then we're just winding this along, and it pulls it forwards and backwards relative to that. And at the top of it is cracked. I may clean that up and braze it with probably some silver solder would do that. It's brass, but all in all, given how long it's sat out in the damp shed, it's pretty fine. Testament to the build quality of these things in the first place. I mean, it's a cliche, but they really don't make them like they used to. This piece, by the way, goes along the edge here, and the witness marks here, and here relate to these little tensioners, just to keep everything nice and tight. so it fits on there like that. Alright, that's cool. So let's see what we can do about the last piece of the puzzle. Move my hog out of the way. And this last piece as with this other piece, has a little locking arm on it. You can't quite see that from there. Let me just bring it over. So that is locked, that's unlocked, locked, unlocked. So this should just I should just knock off basically. So all this grease and grime aside, we'll clean that easy enough. Let's just see what we can do. Now this piece as well, has a threaded section in it. Now this at the top locks the tail piece in place. That's a Morse taper one, so let's take an example of a live tail piece there. They just slot it in. So with these you want to be able to lock it in position, or if you've got a drill chuck attached on here and you're using it to actually bore out the middle of a piece of metal that's spinning over here, you might want to loosen that off and then use this handle to drill in. And this is running absolutely beautifully. It had completely seized, as with the rest of it. I've done nothing to it except squirt in about half a pint of penetrating oil, and that is running absolutely beautifully. So it's quite limited in terms of its range of movement, about 3 or 4 inches, absolute tops. However, the nice thing about it is that it's on this track, so it can slide forwards and backwards as well relative to the workpiece. So if you had to slide it in, lock it off, wind in, wind out, slide it up again, lock it off, wind in, wind out with a drill chuck for instance, you can certainly do more than the 3.5 4 inches of play that's in that. So that's working perfectly anyway. Don't really need to do anything with that except remove it so I can get this piece off and clean the whole lot up. And to do that, I'm not going to be precious about it. This is plastic, it's full of sand, it's dead low, so we'll just give it a few, we'll make sure it's unlocked, which it is. Hold on to it nice and tight, and also be prepared to catch any little pins or bolts that are involved in the assembly at the back. The locking assembly. Oh, there isn't any, it's just a dovetail. So the dovetail sits in the slot and the lock just pulls it home, pulls it tight. So you can adjust how tight it is just by turning that around. Nice. 397. Another thing that just needs polishing up basically. So we'll get the rust proofer on this. There's some horrible paint that's been slapped on over the years. I am going to, as with a lot of the restorations I do, use my standard paint stripper, strip all the moving parts out of it, take the painted cast piece, slap all the paint stripper on, wrap it in cling film and leave it. Just one thing I'd observe about this tail piece, and that is that this bezel here is a little loose on those screws, so I might, let's see if I can fabricate some fresh ones. as it happens, I do have a jar of donor bits and bobs. They were in the shed in a house I moved into. A guy who used to work in Bombardier, Shorts as was, where they made the flying boats. And he had lots of spare parts in his shed. Say no more. Anyway, that is very nice. One more thing for the box. Which means that we can take this off. Clean up the rails first. No point getting all this way and then scoring it. Yeah, again, just a little dovetail on the bottom that runs in this groove here that pulls in tight when you turn the lever. Nice. I really am genuinely staggered, given how long this is sat for, by how little rust there is. I mean, the quality of the machining as well. I guess just after the war there was a lot of machining facilities that have been making munitions and all that kind of stuff that were just set up for really, really high quality engineering that just turned the hand to a whole bunch of other stuff. I suppose, when you think about it, production techniques for making lathes and so on, when you're turning a lot of shell casings and all that good stuff, and mass producing lathes, must have been pretty much on point at that moment. But this is, what was this, 1946, so we're in 2022. I mean, for the age of this thing, the fact that it's not just a big ball of rust, it was only seized up by effectively dried grease, is quite shocking. But that's just oil and a rag. It's brought it back to being pretty much shiny. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Anyway, British engineering from a time when that actually was a badge of quality and pride. See here, just oil this up again. Okay, there we go. Just locate the threaded section back up, give it a little wind. It'll catch itself. Goodness, there's some weight in this. This will be getting a good polish, and it'll be getting treated with something a good sight more appropriate than penetrating oil for another 80 something years of hopefully rust and seize free operation. Excellent. Now there's a little grub screw here that is to lock into that slot there, and this little eccentric is what pushes the pushes the dovetail up and down as you twist it. So that needs relocating. We'll just do that now. Ooh, anyone's guess, 2.5 mil. Way too small. One thing I don't have in my collection of tools is a set of ancient Allen keys, so I must be super careful with this. There we go. I figure that's probably just worked loose. Just with vibration. Some kind of miracle it didn't lose the lever. That's not playing nicely. Come on. Play nice. I think I have tightened it into the wrong slot. So when that's flush, yeah, okay. So it needs to be flush. Thus. There we go. Okay, done. Now we'll take that apart again eventually, but that, incredibly pleasingly, is now ready for the box of bits to polish. I really wasn't expecting that. So I shall go on the internet this afternoon and see if I can find a replacement for these. We just need to know the size of that hole, of course. But, measure that shortly, and that hole. But the parts that advertise themselves as suitable for Boxford are very freely available, so I should get a fresh one of these rather than wrestling with this. I will restore it, of course, for completeness, but just for everyday use I'll get a metric equivalent. I think that'll just be easier all round. Cool, okay, so that's that. What have we got next? This doesn't come off, except that it might, which is somewhat of a contradiction in terms, but there's a couple of bolts underneath. For repainting, it might be an idea to take that to bits, and to do that I will need a set of Whitworth sockets. Because I do quite a bit of work on classic bikes, I happen to have some. There you go. I'm hopeful that it'll be the smallest one of those. Alright, let's see what we've got. This thing is really heavy. As you can see, it's all cast. Well, that's straightforward enough. This side we have, they look like bolts, 2 bolts, that just straight through and into the casting on the other side. And you can see there, the same 2 there, and also another 2 that hold that top section with the pulleys on it onto the base plate. So this should be a really easy strip down, as long as we have the right tools. Now this little set I've got here of British made sockets, Whitworth sizes, is the sort of thing that you would carry under the seat in a motorcycle back in the day in case you got stuck. They are driven by a hex key rather than a 1/2 inch socket, so they're a perfect fit, mind. It's going to be a merry old game trying to turn these things with that. Let me see, what can we do to extend that bar? Do we need to? No, we don't need to. No crazy talk. 1. Time to grab my mighty tool. Oh yeah. It is a fairly sizable persuader, but that has come off lovely. Okay, 2 bolts with original washers, we'll keep those safe. Same for these. Well, it's stayed together for 80 plus years without being torqued to hell's gates, so I guess that's a lesson for us all. No need. I won't drop that because it will probably shatter if I do, but note to self that the slope goes on the outside, of course. Shall we mark this? Yes, let's mark this. This is a white acrylic paint marker. I'm just going to put L on that, just in case. Right, so that can go safe in the box of bits. Now repeat at the other end. Okay. No idea what these are made of. Brass, I'm guessing. Yeah, they are. Solid brass. Okay, and there's the other one for the other side, complete with dead spiders. Never mind that now. Right, so let's keep these nice and safe. Always put them back, especially when they're such short supply. This little thing came to me as part of a box of bits of bike from a roof space. Throw them on the floor because they're so precious. As I say, that box of bits of bike actually amounted to 2 full matchless G2 engines, same as the AJS 14, 2 complete engines with gearboxes, which have both been rebuilt and are currently sitting in mothballs. So if you're looking for a matchless G2 engine, just saying, I've got a 1962 and a 1963. One's a G2, the other's a G2S. Yeah, there you go. Drop me a PM if you're interested. Anyway, we'll get it advertised one of the days. So there we have a beautifully machined, only slightly rusty, remarkably not rusty, and oh, that's beautiful. I'm just going to zoom you in on this bit. Complete with the original Swarf from the manufacturing of God only knows what. This looks to be shiny still, so possibly stainless. Anyway, whatever it is, some very, very tiny bits of Swarf there. I shall, because I'm a geek, I shall collect those for posterity. And we'll see if we can identify what they are, the various different metals that are involved. But yeah, I'll scrape those out now, and well, let's just recap. So we've got the base, which is hugely heavy, the drive unit, which just bolts on, again 397, and in beautiful condition. Few bubbles here from the original mould where it's been cast, but sure, I'm not going to hold that against him. That's a lovely piece of something. Maybe this is brass. I shall have to do some homework in terms of what this thing's made of. No, it looks to be steel. Right, so I've got one of those. Drive unit. Alright, so final recap. What have we got? We have the original base, complete with a delightful pile of anonymous Swarf, which I shall, let's say, probably stick under a microscope, have a look and see what we're dealing with. We've got the drive unit, complete with the 2 original bolts and washers that held that onto the base. We've got 2 feet, left and a right foot, complete with the original brass bolts and washers that held those on. We have the central block with the 2 slides that control the tool holder. We've got the tool holder, of course, although that's likely to be replaced. The chuck. Chuck key, the original chuck key that was wedged in the middle. And the tailpiece. All freed up, ready to be stripped down, repainted, refinished, and then mounted onto a board so that I can get an old motor onto this and we'll get using it. I already have a few plans for little model steam applications for this, but let's keep that under wraps until it's working again. To be fair, with this, it's already serviceable. if I reassembled that without doing anything else to it, just a bit of a grease here and there, stuck a motor on it, it'd work tomorrow. But I think we can do a bit better than that. So I'm going to leave that one there, get prepared for the next piece, and I will see you next time. So take it easy, guys, and I'll keep you posted with updates as they go. As I say, next thing I think is going to be the clean-up, probably, of that base section. So go a little bit more hardcore with that one. The plate in the middle I think is probably brass, so that's one for Brasso, but all the old crap paint will be coming off chemically. Then I'll be dealing with the rust chemically, and then we'll go at it with an angle grinder if there's anything left, before priming and repainting. So yeah, bit of an adventure. Take it easy, I'll see you next time.